Good morning,
guys. Welcome to WRME Live, where I'm tired and she's short. It's our constant. Welcome to the party. We got stuff to talk about and maybe a lot to talk about because I can't shush. And you doing well? Are we live?
I'm
Technology, work with us. Is the microphone working?
The microphone's on.
Well, okay. I'll give you guys a Carl update. As you guys have always been concerned, yes, he is doing better. He's doing physical therapy 2 to 3 times a week, give or take. His brother Larry has been ferrying him around wherever he needs and has been a reasonable sitter. He does tend to let Carl overdo it a little, but we both know that if Larry wasn't there, Carl would overdo it a lot. So I think Larry's been doing a good balance of everything so far. Do we have confirmation or does it hate us?
It hates us.
Page.
It reverted back. But we're still live in our YouTube, so.
Hey, YouTube, yo!
So let's try this again for our Facebook group. Hey!
Welcome to WRME
So if you
Live!
watch on YouTube, sorry, technology's not cooperating this morning.
I'm not very techie, and it's always funny when the techie one has a moment.
But see, they have brains of their own, because like earlier it
Technology.
wouldn't even find our group. I had to re-log into everything.
No matter what you say, technology just has an opinion.
It does.
And it can be rather irksome. But welcome to WRME Live for like the 3rd time. Carl is doing okay. He's doing physical therapy a couple times a week.
We're good now.
Yay! And let's see. Oh, he's been doing all sorts of stuff. Larry, his brother, has been reining him in, kind of letting him push it, but not overdo it. We both know Carl would overdo it if we let him. But Larry's been trying to keep a reasonable rein on that. But he's doing much better. Thank you for asking. In the meantime, we have real estate stuff to talk about. And holy crackers, is it a hot market?
Low inventory. And when we say low, normally when we go into our thing and start a search before we minimize it down by criteria is by taking out like short sales or
as is investors, has tenant.
To get to the normal resale, as we'd like to call it, the ones that'll go FHA, conventional, VA, all that. We usually have 5,000 plus. We're in the 2,000s right now.
And if a house...
And things are going multiple offer in a day or two.
And I mean, over list price. If a house is priced adequately for condition, location, based on comps, there are a lot of people that are willing to pay higher than that amount, but we can't guarantee it because we have to go off facts, that if you price it right, it's not going to last. And so we kind of figured that if you guys are in the market to buy a house, you kind of need to know some of the parameters to make your offer
more appealing.
We like to call them clean offers, minimal additional things to them that could make it a less desirable contract.
Such as closing costs being paid. If someone comes in and they have the same purchase price, like both are at $150, let's say, but offer A wants 6% of closing costs paid for the buyer, and the other one needs no closing costs paid, offer B is going to look more appealing than offer A.
Because, for instance, if it's $3,000 in closing costs, ballparking for good math, it's $150 purchase price, and you want the seller to pay $3,000. Your offer is really $1,047 compared to the next one. It's only wanting to pay $150. It's $3,000 higher.
And another thing I like to explain to my buyers and even sellers sometimes, because they don't. A seller, if they're selling their house and they're purchasing another house, they have to pay closing costs on the sale of their house. And then they turn around and they pay closing costs on the purchase of their house.
Yep.
So they're already paying 2 closing costs. If you ask them to pay your closing cost, technically they're paying 3 closing costs. And sometimes, yes, they have equity in their house. but that's what they're using to pay their closing costs on both transactions. And in lots of times, that's also used for their down payment. So they might have just enough to cover those three things.
And it's not our place on the buying side to know that of the seller. That's between the seller and their agent to figure out what they need to do to achieve selling the property. We're helping you on the buying side in this situation. And we're going to suggest that if this is a hot market, for instance, a house in Mustang that's a 3-bed, 2-bath with an acre, either has a shop or room to build a shop, it's a hot ticket right now. And if you're looking for that, up front, I'm going to say you have your pre-approval letter, not pre-qualified letter, your pre-approved letter. That means you've done everything with your lender to go, assuming your lender's willing to provide one. Some only do pre-qual, but you need to have that ready so when you do submit the offer, you have proof of buying power. Also, as mentioned, there's closing costs, not asking for any.
And there's small things too, like home warranties.
Yes.
You can get a home warranty without asking the seller to pay for it.
You can pay that on your own.
You can pay it on your own and it still be in the contract and that still go through and you can still pay for it at closing. So just stuff like that. I'm not saying don't get a home warranty or don't sacrifice or don't ask for closing costs. That's what we're not saying. We're not saying that. Some people need a little bit of help. I like to tell my clients that need their closing costs paid, at least save for half. Even through the transaction, keep saving money. Sometimes somebody can't pay all $6,000. Let's just say it's $6,000 is your closing cost. Maybe your seller can pay $3,000 because maybe they're getting $3,000 of their closing cost on their purchase paid, and they're gonna pass along that. But that's not always the case. So have money saved. Keep saving through the process.
Constantly save, and do not go buy the speedboat.
Yeah, don't apply for a line of credit. Don't buy a car.
Assume you are now povertous. The money you have in savings is not something you can touch. You are eating ramen noodle and surviving, or not doing excessive during this time because anything can cause issues with the lender, etc. But that's a lender thingy. Also, if you have the option of doing a FHA loan or a conventional loan, if you're looking for a hot market item, I would highly suggest you do the conventional. Talk to your lender, but pretty much every conventional is more desirable than an FHA because of the 5% down. That's more down, less risk of it being kicked out by the bank, or the 20% down conventional. There's a scale.
Here's the thing though, on an FHA, you can do more than 3.5% down.
Yes.
I know this because me and my husband a couple of years ago, we've been looking and we went to our lender and we talked to him, and one of the options was for us to go ahead and still do the benefits of some of what the FHA has to offer by doing a bigger down payment without having to go to the conventional, because in our scenario, would have been nice to do the conventional, but FHA with a higher down was more of a fit for us.
So that's why you talk to your lender, and FHA has different requirements than conventional. So if it's a hot market, conventional is generally deemed more desirable because there's usually less requirements compared to FHA.
Right.
So if you're hot market trying to make a clean offer, if you can, try and do a conventional. If you can.
Yeah, there's still difference between a conventional 20% down and a conventional 5% down.
And a good realtor who's presenting these offers to the seller will go, this is an FHA, but it's 20% down.
Or no, it's 10 or
whatever. They'll look at the loan document that gets attached to the purchase contract and say, okay, the purchase price is this, but they're actually putting X down, and it's a higher amount. It does affect things.
And another benefit in any market, regardless if it's a hot market, a seller's market, a buyer's market, or whatever, getting a local lender.
Oh, yes.
I explained this the other day. If you have a local lender and they're not returning your phone calls or email, you can go to their office. If they're avoiding me as your realtor, guess where I'm going to be? I'm going to be at their door saying, hey, we got a problem. You can't always do that with an online or an out-of-state lender. I've dealt with an out-of-state lender. They had someone here, but technically everything had to go to Y state. Well, lender here was not great. And let's just say we closed at like 7 o'clock on a Friday. 7 o'clock at night on a Friday because of this. And that was already late because there was no way for us to go in and beat down these people's doors to get things moving or get a direct answer.
And from a short sale perspective, where I literally had to sit on the phone and harass people to go check their fax machine, it's no joke that some of these banks, they go, what's on the computer, the fax machine could be right there, and they're like, I'm sorry, I am not in charge of the fax machine. Freaking get up and check it. It's just life. Or get me your supervisor who can check it.
And there's another benefit to using a local lender. They're in our local market, just like using a local agent. We're in the local market. We know the market. The lender's going to have an idea with the market too because they're dealing with these loans constantly.
One of the things we like about Weichert is I want to say it's the actual creator of Weichert, Jim Weichert, that said, people buy people first. And there is a value to that because if you have a lender that you can see face to face and have a relationship with, and you know they're going to answer their phone, or if they don't, it's because they're talking to someone else and will call you right back. There's a value and kind of a security to it that you have a relationship with them compared to Billy Bob at Quicken or InternetLoan.7, and they may not be able to do it, and they just
and most local lenders, most agents, I've been in the Bahamas on a phone with a client who was working with one of the other agents in the office covering for me when I was out of town. I've dealt with a lender who was sitting at a table on the beach in Hawaii, still working. We work for our clients.
Yep.
The only time we usually don't answer if I'm underwater because I'm scuba diving. Sorry, you're gonna have to wait till I come back up. Just can't have a phone down there. But for the most part,
cell
we're
service is
answering
crap
the phones,
beneath the sea,
right? Or out on the boat. But if I'm to that point, like I went to Europe a few years ago, and I was pretty much down to text and email.
She gets to go places.
So I made sure everything was covered here. They had everything they needed. They had access to everything. I gave them the heads up, the rundown of each client. I let each client know, here's who you need to talk to, who's handling. I'll still be doing emails here and there when I can have Wi-Fi, So there's a benefit to using local because if we're not here, we have someone we trust helping to cover. And vice versa. Same with lenders. Instead of having a huge team of 4 or 5 you're trying to get a straight answer from 45 minutes and 2 hang-ups later, if it's local, it's usually the lender and their assistant. That's who you're dealing with.
And maybe one person at corporate underwriting. And you never talk to them because you talk to the assistant.
Because we don't deal with underwriting, we deal with them. So there's benefits of using local, especially in a hot market.
So, quick recap of broad parameters for making a clean offer. Pre-approval letter. Local preferred. Preferably pre-approval, but we understand if you pre-qual. If you're doing cash, proof of funds letter on bank letterhead.
Or if you can't do it, most people will accept a bank statement, a current bank statement, until you can get it. Because I've had some people that can't do it.
That is a good backup if you are blessed to be able to buy a $300,000 house cash. Now, that again, not advised. Well, that's a different topic. There is minimize the extras. If you don't have to have them pay for closing costs, the seller pay for closing costs, don't ask for it then. If you really want this house and you know there's other offers, consider making an offer higher than list price.
Well, in that, if it has to have closing costs paid, let's say you have to have $3,000 closing costs paid.
Like a VA loan.
Offer $3,000 over list price to compensate. That doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
And
but
also,
you're acknowledging you need some help, but you're willing to say, for helping me, I'll pay more.
And you check with your lender, make sure they're okay with it. Not all of them will. If they are okay with it, you can also let your agent know, or have your agent and let the other agent know that we increased the price to accommodate for those closing costs. That's why we did this. And that does affect certain things, but just warranty. If you don't have to have a warranty, don't put it on there. If you are okay, or pay for it yourself, and put it on the contract that you will pay for it yourself. There are other ways to make it a little bit more cleaner, like property be sold as is, and things like that. But
Which
it's
is harder.
that depends on the house, etc., and the loan type. But the main thing is, if you can minimize the extras that the seller has to pay out of pocket, minimize them, or adjust, like increasing purchase price to include the closing cost.
And note that if the house doesn't appraise and you've offered more, unless you're willing to bring cash to compensate that, if the loan can only loan up for what the appraisal value is. So if it appraises for 150 but you offered 155, you either have to bring that additional 5,000 or the price has to be dropped.
And it's a hot market. And some of these houses, they got backup offers waiting to the point of closing, that if anyone bails, they'll be there with money
And then
in
at
excess.
that point, they know what the house appraised for, and they can go and say, okay, this one, and move on to the next offer.
Yep. It can make and break things, so you got to be ready for it. Thank you guys for joining us this
If you
morning.
have questions,
Comment, text, email.
call.
I don't do carrier pigeon, but we are working on that. Are we? No, we're not working on that. But we do texting and email and all that jazz. Facebook Messenger.
Telegram.
We really got to reactivate our Instagram, don't we?
I haven't. If they message, I get it.
Oh, yeah, because Facebook and Instagram are married now. Well, okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us at WRME Live, where we do real life, real world real estate every day.
Bye.